Good morning, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Welcome back. Nice to have you here again. A lot of things going on since we talked or we shared some videos and news last time. The EU sanction on China actually is like multiple countries put sanctions on China. US, Canada, the United Kingdom, all they put sanctions on Chinese for human rights violations and other conduct. Plus also EU sanctions on Eritrea for some human rights violation back in Eritrea for the disappearance of Eritrean citizens, not for the one carried out in Tigray. That's coming up, still not announced. The other thing is the horrible tragedy happened in Colorado, which took the lives of 10 people, one individual in a shopping mall shooting. That's horrible, and they're talking about preventing it through gun control. So this and the Prime Minister of Ethiopia speech to the Parliament, you know, so many discussions, so many questions, and he start, you know, feeling the pressure from at home and the global community, and trying to tell the truth what happened and about the Eritrean presence and the war crimes. Start slowly, you know, accepting the realities. These are some of the happenings occurred, you know, last time. So for today, in the same way, I have some news to share with you, especially the Walloo massacre, the Walloo or the massacre or the genocide on Oromos in Walloo. That was a big issue, and some other news to read. Then at the end, I have short videos to share with you. Okay, let's get started. Here are the news and Concerned Citizens Media comment for March 25, 2021. The first one is you know, the reports on the genocide or the war crimes carried out on Walloo Oromos. The truth about Walloo genocide. Representatives from Walloo Oromo Special Zone exposed the truth about the massacre happened on Oromos in Walloo, Ethiopia. Both representatives presented what they witnessed in Walloo in Ethiopian parliament at the presence of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, parliamentary members, and various media reporters. So at the presence of all these, plus the global viewers and Ethiopians in general. Citing all the credible evidence, these representatives told the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and the country's parliament and to the Ethiopians in general that Oromo Wallos are massacred by heavily armed Amara special forces in coordination with the Amara administration, but not by the Oneksheni or Oromo Liberation Front fighters, as claimed by Zat TV, Ethio-360, Zena Tube, Amara State TV, Fana Broadcasting Corporation, and other medias. All these medias, they say Oneksheni, oil left, oil left, oil left, but these are not the truth. The truth is, as the people from that region talk to the parliament, plus the victims, clearly state that the war crime is committed by the Amara Special Forces, heavily armed by Amara region. These representatives also said that Oromo Wallos are targeted because they are Oromos, number one. Second, they are Muslims. And the Amaras have been trying to evict them from their land for many generations. This is not the first time. It happened for generations, but they were not successful. They are still trying. They called for federal government protection and for the immediate removal of the Amara Special Forces from their zone. So these representatives asked the government, the federal government, to protect them, plus for the removal of this Amara Special Force from their zone. They also demanded independent investigation into these heinous crimes carried out against their constituents. So they call for independent investigation. These representatives' courage and strength in speaking up on behalf of their victims are encouraging. However, knowing about all the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's lies about the war, casualties, Eritrean criminal force involvement in Ethiopia's domestic war, Sudan's Ethiopia border violations under his leadership, economic collapse, country's global isolation, high unemployment, ethnic tension, instability everywhere in the country, and other serious issues, they should have demanded for his immediate resignation. That's the comment from concerned citizens. They should have courage to ask him to please leave the position. You are not good anymore. You are not leading the country. They should have advised him to leave his post because he is unfit to continue his leadership, and the country became the land of death and destruction. In the meantime, various pro-Abiy Ahmed media are calling for the removal and punishment of these representatives for speaking up the truth. Ethio-360, Zena Tube, Zahabesha, all now campaigning, incriminating these representatives from Walloo to be punished, to be removed from their position. Why? Because they told the truth. They didn't want to cover up like the Amara region. They stood up and said it as it is. The war is happened, the genocide is happened because of the Amara Special Forces in coordination with the Amara administration, not because of the presence of oil left. So all these media, Zena Tube, Ethio-360, Isa TV, Zahabesha, all of them now, and the other medias are, looking for, negative sides to remove these people or to silence them, not to speak up again in the future, so they can, the crime can be covered. They gave them several names, several negative names for this representative. Call them remnants of TPLF. See, they call them remnant of TPLF. All of them remnant of TPLF anyway. OPDO, they are OPDO, the other Amara, the same thing. Nothing new. They just change name. They are all remnant of TPLF. So all these are an attempt to cover up the crimes carried out by the Amara against the Walloo Oromos. On the other hand, Oromos' attempt to show solidarity with Walloo Oromos crashed by Abiy Ahmed's security forces in various parts of Oromia. Qeerroo and Qarree protesters in Ambo University, Dirre Xayyaraa town, and in other Oromia region quickly dispersed by brutal security forces. It is not clear why the OPDO officials prevent Walloo Oromos not to have the support of their fellow Oromos. So Oromos tried to, to say stop genocide in Walloo, stop killing the Oromos in Walloo. They tried, but the security forces ordered by Abiy Ahmed crushed them quickly, dispersed them. We don't know the reason why. Why? When one Oromo is attacked, the other Oromos should rise up, and these OPDOs, in the name they are representing Oromos, but even though they released press statements, yeah, you can release press statement, but it doesn't mean nothing when you are denying your people, to show their anger against what happened in Walloo. It doesn't make any sense. So they deny them. They crush them with brutal force. So this is it happened during TPLF time. I said it before. Abdi Ille killed many Oromos, displaced many Oromos by using his Somalia special forces. That time TPLF was in power. They ignored it. It happened for repeatedly. So many, displaced from the Somalia region came to the capital city and other cities. In the same situation now, the Wallos are in trouble. They are in a critical situation. The Amaras burned their homes, burned their crops, killed them, even denied those injured the treatment they need, refused the ambulance, they hold the ambulance on the way to the hospital, take them the patient, and kill them right there. So the cruelty is very, very, unusual. It's very tough one, really, very tough one. And we are expected to have the same country with these people. The cruelty is very bad, extremely bad. So many are displaced now, so many died. Some of us still, didn't get treatment for their injuries. They are at home. They don't have any hospital. All the hospitals are in Amara area, Amara region. Nothing for Oromos in that area. They are in a very bad situation, very bad situation, and they are asking for us, for the global community, and for others to help them, to stand with them, to speak for them, and to support them with whatever we can financially, by speaking to Congress, senators, to other international organizations, exposing this crime, this genocide happening in Walloo. So please do your part, speak for them, help them, stand with them, support them with whatever you can. They are asking for help. They are displaced. Their house is burned. Their crop is burned. Their animals, they're taken away. Their property is taken away, destroyed. This is very tough situation under Abiy Ahmed. Very tough, very bad. Never happened like this, but it happened small in a small conflict with Afar, with Amara. But this one is, open war against Wallos. So please help them, stand with them, speak for them, please. Okay. Eritrean criminal military operation is expanding into Oromia region. I repeat, Eritrean criminal military operation is expanding into Oromia region. This is a very serious one. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is allowing the Eritrean criminal forces to repeat the genocide and other atrocities in Oromia under the pretext of fighting Oromo Liberation Front, or Onakshane as they call them. These Eritrean criminal soldiers are sent to Oromia from their criminal operation in the Tigray region. And instead of expelling them from Ethiopia, the Prime Minister is allowing them to further violate Ethiopia's sovereignty by dispatching them into Oromia region. Oromos should be aware of this move and be prepared to defend themselves from these Eritrean criminal gangs and make Oromia their burial ground. It's very hard, but they have to try. They have to be aware and fight them with whatever they can. They want to repeat the crimes they committed in Tigray, now in Oromia. This is a repeat of the 1991 Eritrean conduct. At that time, TPLF used Eritrean forces to kill or capture Oromo liberation fighters. Now, OPDO is using Eritrean war criminals to dismantle Oromo liberation fighters and preserve Abiy Ahmed's kingship by creating bloodshed in Oromia. So he is using the same tactic like Mallas Zenawi. Mallas Zenawi used Eritreans when they were very close relationship. When the Ethiopians were confused at the time, who is our leader? Is it Isaias Afwerki or Mallas Zenawi? It was that much close relationship at the time. But later on, conflict erupted. They became enemy. Now he got them. So now, Abiy Ahmed is has very close relationship with Abiy Ahmed and the Eritrean Isaias Afwerki. He is using Eritreans to protect himself and to continue the atrocities on Oromos in Oromia region now by using Eritreans. So this is a very serious, and they should be reported, and Oromos should be prepared for this. These criminals are coming to you. They are already in Finfinne, as a guard, as a spy, as intelligence gathering, as a security guard for him, already reported by so many different medias. So this is very serious. We're gonna follow it and we'll report. Ethio-Sudan mediation. The Sudan's cabinet backs United Arab Emirates mediation in disputes with Ethiopia. Ethiopia repeatedly rejected any mediation outside of the African Union. It is not known if Ethiopia changes its stand and accepts this United Arab Emirates mediation effort. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has strong ties with the United Arab Emirates Kingdom, and even the United Arab Emirates allowed him to use their drones to fight the war in Tigray regions. Concerned citizens media does not see an end to this conflict with Sudan unless Sudan also changes its stand about the 1902 agreement claims and pull out all its forces from the area she occupied recently. So United Arab Emirates offered the mediation. Sudan cabinet accepted. Now it's expected on Ethiopia's side if they're going to accept it or not. But according to previous briefings, Ethiopia repeatedly rejected that or when any other party except the African Union members. So do they change their stand? Because Abiy Ahmed has a very good relationship with UAE, could be. Do the Sudanese pull out from the areas they occupied and change their stance about the 1902 claims? If these all things change, peace and the border security will be possible. If not, it's going to continue. Okay, finally, the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission confirmed human rights violations in Axsum. The Ethiopian Human Rights Agency reported its preliminary findings about the possible war crimes carried out by Eritrean forces in Axsum, Tigray region. The agency said it interviewed various witnesses, survivors, and visited impacted areas and reached to this conclusion. The commission also called for detailed independent investigations into the matter. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed also recognized the crimes committed in the Tigray war for the first time yesterday in his parliamentary speech, almost 5 months after the war is over. Concerned citizens media believes the international pressure and the threats led to these changes on Ethiopia government sides. If you remember, they denied. Abiy denied, his PP officials, military generals, all of them denied. No war crime, no Eritrean soldiers. But now they try to open up because, incriminating pressure, credible surveillance cameras, videos, and different media reports, and different international United Nations organizations, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, Crisis Group, CNN, New York Times. That's it. They cannot deny anymore. Nothing can be concealed from the global community at this 21st century. Nothing. Nothing. The globe is connected and the satellites everywhere. Cannot hide. You can try, but you cannot escape the truth. So, as you heard on the Ethiopian parliament yesterday, Abiy Ahmed talked about, start telling the truth about the Eritrean soldiers. But he tell it in a different way. They are there to defend themselves. We cannot guarantee them. We cannot give them a security guarantee. Blah blah. All these are lies. They involve deep in Tigray war in various cities, not only on the border area. Now they are heading to Oromia. So stop lying, guys. Stop. You should feel ashamed. Keep lying without feeling ashamed. So you may lie for days or a month, but you will be caught again with so many credible evidences. So he started accepting the truth. He say rape occurred, but Ethiopian soldiers also raped with spears. That's what he said. I don't know what that means. So he say these things are ugly parts of the war. Why he didn't say this at the beginning? Why he said no casualty, no deaths? Ethiopian soldiers are not special. War has consequences, deaths and destruction. That's why we advocated against the war at the time. We say finish these things through diplomacy, through dialogue, instead of using Somalian military, Eritrean military, UAE drones, plus the Amara special forces and Ethiopian Defense Force, and committing all these horrible crimes. It's not exaggerated. It is reported as it is, with evidence, with credible evidence, from survivors, from the witnesses, from international organizations. So that's part of the reading. Let's share some videos and conclude today's presentation. There we go. Come on. Okay, come on. There we go. Adjustments. No, what you talking about? No, come on. Sorry. There you go. I think now it's okay. It looks okay now. Let's listen to these different videos by different agencies. The first one is talks about Israel election. See.
At its start, Benjamin Netanyahu's election campaign was all about bringing Israel back to life. through COVID-19 vaccines. By the time it finished, the message had boiled down to one phrase: 2 more seats, repeatedly telling his supporters he was within touching distance of the 61 needed for a majority coalition.
It's the largest gap between 2 leading parties in Israel in the last dozen years. There is a large majority within the people of Israel, and with this majority in the Knesset, who believe in our principles. It's possible and needed to set up a stable government in Israel, a fair government. I reach out to all members of the Knesset who believe in these principles. I won't rule out anyone, and I expect them to do the same.
Naftali Bennett was styling himself as a Netanyahu alternative. The question now is whether his Yamina party's 7 or 8 seats will be enough to get Netanyahu over the finish line.
There's no reason why we should go to a 5th election. And they must come to Netanyahu and say, we want to be part of the government, we accept the results of this round, and form a right-of-center government that could aggressively pursue the opportunities we have ahead of us.
Earlier, election day itself had been hot and hazy, a running tally of ballots cast suggesting the lowest turnout in years. Netanyahu crisscrossed the country to squeeze out every last vote, warning his core voters that turnout was particularly bad in his Likud strongholds. But it was in Palestinian-Israeli areas where the fall-off seemed most severe. The mainly Arab joint list, with 15 seats in the previous parliament, is projected now to have as few as 8, after splitting in 2, the smaller group failing to get into the parliament at all. Meanwhile, the far-right religious Zionist alliance, promoted by Netanyahu and featuring an advocate of removing disloyal Arabs from the country, outperformed expectations. Opposition leader Yair Lapid says relying on their seats would create a homophobic, racist, illiberal government, and one that would shield Netanyahu from his corruption trial.
I think we can have a good reason to be proud of the way we handled ourselves, and even a bigger reason for the result we brought. At the moment, Netanyahu doesn't have 61 seats, but the change bloc does.
The exit polls have already changed several times since their first release. Coronavirus voting and counting protocols could delay the official count until Friday. Benjamin Netanyahu has claimed victory before, only to have it dashed away. This time he does have some options, perhaps a campaign to try to peel away defectors from other right-wing parties. Israelis in 4 elections now have delivered almost identical verdicts, and again it's over to the political deal-makers to try to find a way out of the gridlock. Harry Fawcett, Al Jazeera, West Jerusalem.
Is your 9-to-5 grind taking a toll on your life and your family? Learn how a global community of online entrepreneurs are escaping their 9-to-5 grind, spending more time with your
Flags at government buildings once again fly at half-staff on the president's orders, just as they did a week ago following a mass shooting in Atlanta. Among the 10 killed in Boulder, Colorado, was a 51-year-old police officer, Eric Talley. His fellow officers and citizens paid tribute as his body was taken to the morgue.
Gun violence is a pandemic within a pandemic. We know about 50 million guns were sold in the last year, many of them to people who live in states that don't require a background check or training or permitting.
And the president has called for a bipartisan push to institute stronger gun controls.
We can ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines in this country once again. I got that done when I was a senator. It passed. It was law for the longest time. And it brought down these mass killings. We should do it again.
2 bills making it more difficult to buy a gun have been passed in the House of Representatives in recent weeks, but they are likely to face strong opposition when brought to the Senate.
For years, Democrats have pushed for action to stop this killing with common sense reform that will save lives. For years, we've been blocked by Republican leaders and their special interests. Now, we can act, and we will.
The divisions remained on sharp display in the Senate Judiciary Committee session on gun control, scheduled before the shootings in recent days.
Thoughts and prayers are not enough. And yet, thoughts and prayers is all we have heard from my colleagues on the other side. Thoughts and prayers must lead to action.
I agree. It is time for us to do something. And every time there's a shooting, we play this ridiculous theater where this committee gets together and proposes a bunch of laws that would do nothing to stop these murders.
The legislation that's been passed in the House falls far short of the President's call for a ban on automatic weapons and high-capacity magazines. It proposes extending the background check period from 3 to 10 days. Yet given the visceral Republican opposition to any form of gun control, even this moderate measure is unlikely to get the 60 votes needed in the Senate to become law. Mike Hanna, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Thank you, Chairman Menendez, Ranking Member Risch. I'm so encouraged to hear your bipartisan work on the China bill. And that we are considering more than a dozen pieces of legislation on a bipartisan basis, which I think is setting a very positive tone for this committee. For those watching, I'll just comment that there are resolutions all across our agenda today that are designed to promote democracy and our core values in our relations towards Venezuela, Cuba, Syria, Burma, and as well Ethiopia. And I want to thank Senator Cardin and Ranking Member Risch for your leadership on this resolution. As was mentioned, I just returned from a weekend spent as President Biden's personal emissary, meeting with Prime Minister Abe and a whole range of senior Ethiopian officials and others in the international community. And I want to thank you for allowing changes to the resolution to recognize that trip, which I believe was constructive. I just want to note that there have already been some positive public statements by Prime Minister Abe in the last 24 hours, recognizing the need for accountability for human rights violations, the first public acknowledgement of the presence of Eritrean troops, and just within the last few hours, positive statements about the possible resolution of the border dispute with Sudan and the path forward on the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. There are other issues that we must address: full humanitarian access, the cessation of hostilities, the path towards free and fair elections. And I look forward to working with each of you on these issues and hopefully to there being more progress. So thank you. There are a number of other important items on today's agenda. I'll just briefly thank Senator Portman for his partnership in the Tropical Forest and Coral Reef Conservation Restoration Act, and a number of other items like the anniversary of the U.S. African Development Foundation. Thank you for the opportunity to work with all of you on a bipartisan basis, and I'm hopeful we can make progress in addressing the challenging situation in Tigray and Ethiopia. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your good work, Senator.
Okay, that's a very short statement from Senator Chris Coons after visiting Ethiopia, after delivering Joe
Japan
Biden.
says North Korea has fired 2 ballistic missiles. They were launched from South Hamgyong province into the sea near Japan. The US Pacific Command has responded, saying the launches show that Pyongyang is a threat to its neighbors. Well, Rob McBride joins us live now from the South Korean capital, Seoul. Rob, so yet another missile launch from North Korea. What more do we know at this stage?
It is quite a significant development. It happened early Thursday morning, was first detected by the Japanese Coast Guard, later confirmed by officials here in South Korea as being 2 projectiles flying some 450 kilometers. And both Japanese and US officials are now saying that these were ballistic missiles. Now, this is the first time in a year that North Korea has launched one of these provocative type of tests. For the past couple of years, since the negotiations between North Korea and the US over denuclearization broke down, it has returned to developing and testing its missiles and weapon systems, but they have tended to be less provocative, shorter range missiles and rockets being fired off its coast, the kind of weapons that are not banned by UN resolutions. And in fact, only last weekend it was confirmed that they had fired off 2 cruise type missiles. The White House has largely ignored that. US President Joe Biden saying that that was no big deal, that it was business as usual. Ballistic missiles are a lot harder to ignore. We have also had this condemnation from the Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga.
It is a threat to our country and to regional security. It's also a violation of the United Nations Security Council resolution. We'll strictly protest and condemn their actions. I'm determined to closely cooperate with the United States, South Korea, and other related nations to protect the lives of our people.
And Rob, the timing is significant, isn't it, with senior US diplomats recently visiting Asia to formulate policy on North Korea?
That's right. We have a change in U.S. administration. Antony Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, was in Northeast Asia meeting with his counterparts in Japan, South Korea just last week as they are formulating what their strategy will be towards North Korea. Now, the North Koreans confirmed during that visit that they had received overtures from U.S. officials about restarting dialogue, which they said they basically ignored. But it was thought by other statements that they would wait and see just what the policy was, not carry out any kind of provocations while the US comes up with whatever their strategy is. It seems by this test that possibly North Korea has had a change of heart. It sees no point in waiting, possibly. It has nothing to lose by firing off these kind of missiles at this point, and if anything, might add pressure and discomfort on the US administration.
All right, Rob McBride, live for us there in Seoul. Rob, thank you.
Okay, I think that's the end, and that is Joe Biden's and the global challenge, the issue of North Korea. They are very powerful and they are intimidating, so they have to find a way to deal with them. They are very strong. They have nuclear and long-range missiles. It's a very tough one to deal with, but they have to do something, let's sign a deal, not to threaten each other, leave them alone, so Senator Chris Coons also just gave us a brief view of his visit. He is encouraged by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed start telling the truth, as I said before, admitting the presence of Eritrean soldiers, the war casualties, and to cooperate with the global community. He changed because he cannot escape. He cannot escape. You cannot, you cannot be successful if you are, fighting with European Union, United States. You cannot. He knows that, even though he talk a lot. He knows they cannot survive without the support of the United States and the European Union. They know it, but they try to pretend they can deal with it without the US support and the EU support. They cannot. I mean, Ethiopia is still a third world country. Actually, nothing changed in towns and the cities, nothing. Even the capital city, I was there 2019, it's nothing. You can see some huge tall buildings, but for the majority of the people, life is still miserable. High unemployment, water shortage, electric power shortage, light cut off every week, water cut off. So the country is still backward. But the leaders, they try to muzzle their power. They try to act like they can handle everything by themselves. They are misleading themselves. They are cheating themselves. They got to listen to the global community, tell the truth, open, the field, make the election democratic, free. Just like 2018, when the whole world was celebrating his coming. Now is not the same situation. He created death and the destruction. The emptied, the vacant jails, prisons, they filled up again. Even the schools and the public offices are used as a jail. Thousands and thousands, especially in Oromia, including the leadership, they are in jail. Death and destruction everywhere. Command post Benishangul, command post in Oromia, war in Tigray, war in Amara, Walloo massacre. So the situation is very tough. It's very disappointing. The country going back to this way after after we celebrated in 2018 the welcoming sign, the Savior coming to that land, the Messiah. All that is changed. All that is changed. So please keep the prayer for the prisoners, for their, for their safety, well-being, and keep the pressure. Silence is not the answer. We don't expect any justice from this system. The movement is slowed down. I don't know the reason. I told you last time, Senegal forced the government to release their opposition figure within 3 days. Within 3 days. I know there is a gun over there too. People died, but still they keep protesting. They keep protesting day and night. And they forced the government to release the opposition figure within 3 days. One opposition figure. How many are in jail in Oromia? Thousands. Thousands. It's a test. Abiy is testing the Oromos. And he knows we are scared of the guns. He already tested, because he is within inside. He knows maybe Oromos are not strong. That's why he's thinking. That's why he's put all our leaders in jail, shut the offices, and he's ready to win the election. That is happening in Oromia, and that is the situation. So I hope we will wake up again, all, just like the Red Ayara, Keros and the Kares and the Ambos, the strong, courageous individuals, the Shashamanes. It takes time, but once it starts exploding, there is no way for him to survive. He knows that. That's why he just immediately crushed the movement. He don't want any opposition figures to have protest. His supporters, okay, he let them have. But how long is gonna continue? We don't know. We don't know. The time to put pressure was during the war, but most of them stayed home, gave the opportunity, give space for him to continue his crackdown, to keep our political leaders in jail, to keep thousands and thousands of Oromos in jail. He knows he can use a gun. So I'm gonna finish by saying this: please stand with all Walloo Oromos. Help them. Help them. Spread the news. Tell the global community about the genocide happening against them. The houses are burned. Their crops are burned. Thousands displaced from their homes, still under the danger, no protection from the government. The Amara region is not protecting them. So this is a very tough situation, and it will be tough in the future to build Ethiopia. Ethiopia cannot be built in this way. Cannot. If you want to build Ethiopia, we have to come together have a dialogue or reconciliation, you know, give space to each other, give respect to each other, stop the destruction, stop killing each other, and share the power. Don't try to create the Amara dominance. That was not the intention of 2018 revolution. Is not to bring down TPLF and bring the Amara dominance. No, that was not the intention. That was not the intention. Now the Amaras are trying to be the dominant figure. That was not the intention. They are acting badly. Too much dancing, too much celebration on the days of your own citizen. You cannot build the country in that way. Through the gun you can try, but no, that's not the right way to build. Respect and have compassion for each other, you know. So for now, I leave you with a message with Walloo Oromos. Please support them with whatever you can. Call the senators, call the Congress, call the United Nations, let them know what's happening over there. You know, these people are under the threat, under the threat of war, you know, extinction by Amara Special Forces. So I conclude with this. I will be back with other comment news next time. Thank you for taking the time with me. Share the video, subscribe, share with the family, friends, so we can be the voice for the voiceless. We can grow together. Thank you again. So long, everyone.